it's been a hot minute since we've seen each other last, but there have been a lot of changes in the Stitchy-Doo Doll studio, as you can see, and I have been very busy. I mean, the bodies are literally stacking onto each other, so I've got a lot of catching up to do, starting with today's video. And I hope to be cranking out a lot more videos to try and cover everything with the studio changes and all of those bodies that are hanging outside. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I will have a small community spotlight for you featuring 3 of our community friends, and for the first time on this channel, so I hope you'll stick around and enjoy. So let's get started. Grab your toy and let's go play. My first toy is a mermaid, and here is Carla the Mermaid. This pattern is by Leticia Delgado of La Crochetteria, and she is one of my favorite doll pattern designers. My very first amigurumi doll that I had ever made is a Chloe doll written and designed by La Crochetteria. But here is Coral, and I love her as a mermaid. I had to take off her tail off camera because her undies easily come off, so. By day, she is a bathing beauty, and here's her tail. And then by night, she is a mermaid. I love that the underwear and the tail are both removable, but her top is not. This is actually sewn in. I did glue on her hair. She's got like a Princess Leia type of look going on here, but these extra bits have been glued on with glue gun. And then this is like a standard hair wig cap with a little bit of detailing going on around the edging. And then she's got a flower. I did add these little yellow French knots just for a pop of color and added texture for the center of the flower. But I absolutely love this mermaid pattern. I especially love the tail. It's got these beautiful scale detailings, and it is time consuming, if you can imagine. It's one of those patterns where you make progress and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. That was this tail. But it's so worth all that work. And these are done individually, and they have a tendency to want to flip upwards, so you're gonna have to either sew them down, which I did end up doing, sewing this down. Sewing can be very time consuming, but another option for you is also to just spot glue it with maybe some hot glue. So I think maybe I might try that next time. But I also love this fin detailing. I love how it contrasts, and it's done by Rose, and how it contrasts against this fin. It's just beautifully designed. I just love it. And then she's got this detailing here around the waist. It's just beautifully thought out and designed. I love it. This pattern I found to be easy to follow, and I did not encounter any errors. My next toy is this little guy. Doesn't he sort of remind you of somebody? Here's Leggy Froggy. Don't you think they could be cousins? I think they're so super cute. Flipsy Frog reminds me a lot of Leggy Froggy here, but I do prefer the shape and look of Flipsy Frog here. I do love the dangly bits on both of them, and I do love that they're soft and plushy, but I much prefer the shape of this one. However, Leggy Froggy is much quicker to work up. If you're going to be doing markets, this is a much quicker make. So I was watching Yarn and Whimsy Designs here on YouTube, and she was showing the Flipsy Frog here, and I just had to make it. Now this pattern is by Julie Star by Kawaii Cuddlebug, and I will have the link to everything down below in the description box as usual. Now this pattern includes an optional belly patch, but I opted to do without. It was more work and I love the look of it just as is anyway. I had a little bit of a challenge positioning the eyes for some reason, but after playing with it for a while, I think I got it and I'm happy with the way that it turned out. Now this pattern was super fun to work up. It's easy and it's quick, but there is some sewing involved. You have to sew on the eyes and of course the legs, but the body is worked up in one piece. I did not find any errors in this pattern. My next toy is an angel, and here she is. Now some of you may recognize this pattern. It's been around for a while and it's by Carla Mitrani of Amour Fou Crochet. And I've been wanting to make this pattern because I was inspired by a maker on Instagram. And she has made a plethora of variations of just this one doll pattern. And she's made so many variations and they're all so beautiful and inspirational. She especially loves to make the feet with pom-poms as opposed to crocheting them, and they just turn out so beautiful. I was so inspired. I needed to make my own doll. I wanted to make it according to pattern without any modifications, and so I made her, and it was near Valentine's, so that's the color scheme. I've got purple, I've got red, and this is kind of pinkish but more purpley pinkish. For her wings, there's a little bit of iridescent thread going through the white yarn. I love the way that she turned out. The construction of her body came as a surprise to me because most of the photos, if not all of them that I've seen so far, she's sitting like this. But if you notice, she's hollow, and that's not what I was expecting. I thought she was a solid body, but she's hollow. And I love, love, love that you can change the color on the inside, the lining of her dress. And I love that I chose this pop of red color. What it reminds me of is that high fashion stiletto shoes, Christian Louboutin, something like that. I probably butchered the name. But if you know what I'm talking about, it's heels with red on the underside of the shoe. Super sleek, super fashionable, and that's what this red on the inside of the dress reminds me of. I also love dangly bits, dangly legs, and then the weight of the feet, because it's crocheted and stuffed with polyfill, makes it dangle. I think it's super fun. I look forward to trying new variations because of my inspiration maker. I want to try all kinds of different colors and textures on this particular pattern and see what I come up with. My next toy is a bee, and this is Agatha the bee. Isn't she so cute? This is my favorite amigurumi bee of all time thus far. I haven't found any other bee that I like more than this one. She is so super cute. Now Agatha here comes from this book, Animal Friends of Pika-Pau 2 by Jan Schenkel. And here she is on the front cover, still being made. And I love Jan Schenkel and all of her patterns. She has 3 books. This is the second one. This is her first. And this is one of my very first amigurumi books in my collection. And I had worked many a patterns, maybe 80% of the patterns in this book. And I love it. And this is her third book. Now, if you had noticed, many of Jan Schenkel's patterns incorporates a lot of color changes and color work, and that's what I love about her designs, is for that very reason. I love the different textures and color combinations that she comes up with. The patterns just come out so phenomenal. I love it. I love her designs. I know not everyone is a big fan of color changes, but when it comes to color work, I think it's so worth the work that is involved in color changing. I mean, look at this. This is so gorgeous. It renders this texture up here, which is absolutely beautiful. It looks like a scarf or a cowl. And then she's got one texture here, another texture here with this diamond looking pattern, and then some striping that turns out to be like a bullseye at the bottom of her buttocks. It's brilliant. I think its color work is just so fascinating, and I love the things that you can accomplish with just this one technique. Like so many times before, no matter how many amigurumis I make and how much experience I have, I still make mistakes. And that is that I forgot to add the safety eyes before I closed her up. But not to worry, there's always tutorials here on YouTube, and I went to Cassandra from Craftively Ever After's channel, and she has a tutorial on how to do embroidery eyes. And look at how it came out. It came out so super cute. And now that it's embroidered and it's not safety eyes, I don't have to worry about the recipient being a certain age. Like, I can give this to a brand new baby if I wanted to. So bonus! I did not find any errors, and for me, I found it easy to follow. However, I do not recommend this for a brand new beginner just because of all the color changes. And you're gonna have to learn how to manage multiple balls of color of yarn or skeins, and then you're gonna have to learn how to manage your tension and then the tension of your floats. So if you have some experience with amigurumi under your belt and you are an adventurous beginner, you can go ahead and give this a try, but I wouldn't recommend it for an absolute beginner, and definitely not a first project. But this is a fun pattern to work on, and I love, love, love Jan Schenkel. I have been enjoying making the Gracie dolls by A Crafty Concept, and here's my unicorn one, and one of these dolls is the Gracie doll, and I can't see it on my screen, but she's up there. And I've been wanting to complete my set. She's also got a Grayson doll, which is a boy, and I've been wanting to make the entire set. So I finally made one, and here he is. Here's my Grayson doll, and I love the way that he came out. He's so super cute. He looks like a little farmer boy. I love overalls, and I think it came out great. Now for the overalls, I basically just made the length of it just so that it hits the very top of the shoe. I didn't go by the pattern length. I wanted it custom to exactly where I wanted it to stop, but that was pretty much the only modification that I made to the pattern. But I love working on these Gracie dolls because the construction of it, I think, is unique and very different and very reminiscent of cloth dolls. So I just find it fun, and I love that it's different. And I think he'll be a great addition to my doll collection. What do you think? So after Grayson here, I wanted to make another Gracie doll. Sometimes I get into these kicks. I make one and then I want to make another. So I wanted to make another Gracie doll. Except this time I wanted to give her a dress that wasn't all crocheted, but half crocheted and half sewn. So I came up with this one. Here she is. And I super love the way that she came out. For the bottom of her dress, instead of hemming it, I just left it raw. So when I made her bottom of her dress, I had to make sure that my grain line was straight first. I love this look. It gives it a little bit of a different texture and look to the bottom of the dress. But I love the look of combination of sewing fabric and crochet. I just love, love, love that look. And I think she came out super cute. So here's my Gracie doll with crochet and sewing dress. But then after I made this one, Ashley from A Crafty Concept came out with a video on how to give Gracie ponytails. So I had to make another Gracie doll. And here she is. Here's my Gracie doll with a ponytail. And I think she turned out super cute. Now if you notice, her dress is hemmed with regular. I finished it off normally, just stitched it. I love, love, love the way that she came out. Now, pigtails. I remember when my mom used to give me pigtails when I was little. I have long hair now, and I used to have long hair when I was little. And I remember she would pull my pigtails so tight that my skin would look like this. My face would look like this as she's making my pigtails, and I'd have these perfectly manicured pigtails. Eventually my eyes would get back to normal after I kind of pull on it a little bit. But that's what these pigtails remind me of. It's my little girl pigtails. I was much gentler on Gracie doll here. There was no harm in the making of this doll. As you may already know, I love using mixed media in my creations, and I just love the way that the Gracie dolls have come out, and I'm wanting to push myself further and start incorporating more mixed media in my projects. So I've been working on some projects to do just that. It's going to extend my skills even further as a maker because it involves making sewn doll clothes, which is a whole new world for me. So I've been doing a lot of research and I've been studying, and so I'm hoping to make more dolls with sewing clothes. So be on the lookout for that in the future. My next toy is a dinosaur, and here he is. So super cute. Now this pattern is by Soft Stories. Now I was watching Elaine from Penguin Place Crafts, and she was showing a bunch of these little mini dinosaurs. I can't remember how many they were, but they were mini dinosaurs, much smaller than this one. And she had designed them to be miniature versions of this little guy. But because it's a modified version of an existing pattern, she's not able to share it with anybody. So I went to the original source and I made this bigger version instead. But I was inspired by Elaine, so thank you. And I super love the way that it came out. I love the striping detail on the neck and the tail. I think it just adds a bit of texture and interest, so it's not just one solid green. So this spiky bit is supposed to be surface crocheted, but I don't like surface crochet and I don't like sewing on, so pick your poison. But I would much rather sew this on than surface crochet. So what I did instead of surface crochet was I made a long chain and made sure that it could fit the back of this little guy, and then I worked back onto the chain and created these little scallop things, and then I sewed it onto the back of this dinosaur. But the original pattern does have you surface crochet. Not doing it. I found this pattern pretty easy to follow and I did not encounter any errors. Now for the cheeks, I did do only 2 rows. I believe it's supposed to be larger, but I thought that 2 rows was big enough. And I love the pop of color against his face because he is a dark color green, and then with this light pastel pink, I think it's beautiful. I love that pop of color on his cheek. Gives him a little bit of cheerfulness against all this darkness. I have been inspired by Emma Carter on Instagram, and she has been making some really beautiful blankets lately using scrap yarns or mini skeins, and I've been wanting to make something, so I tried one of her tutorials and it came out with this. And it's a small tiny little swatch, but I think it's a great size for my doll blanket. So I'm gonna use this as props for my dolls. And this is using all different colors and skeins from clearance yarns that I found at a Hobby Lobby clearance sale. So Super cheap, super fun to make, and I love the way that it came out. And if you're interested, I will have Emma's link down below. She's very inspiring. She uses hand-dyed yarns, and of course you know that it's gonna come out beautiful. But she's got some other blanket styles that I'm wanting to try, so I just might make more doll blankets. But instead of granny square, maybe I think they call it granny stripes or something. But anyways, they'll be a little bit different, but still doll blankets. And then after this one, I wanted to make another one except using different colors. So this one's a little more subtle. This one turned out loud, and this one I specifically use scraps, so you'll notice that I have multicolors in some of these squares, and I love it. It just adds more interest and texture to it, and I love the different colors. They're so bright and cheerful. And again, this is for my dolls. For this blanket, I used a 3-weight yarn with maybe like, I can't even remember, but I'm gonna guesstimate maybe like a 4.5 or a 5mm hook, and it gives it this really nice soft drape, and I love that look and feel. This one's using a 4-weight cotton yarn. This is acrylic and this is cotton, and it has a nice soft drape as well. So I used a larger yarn but also a larger hook, just so that I can keep the drape nice and soft. So I was inspired by Emma Carter on Instagram, but she does have a tutorial here on YouTube on how to create this solid granny square blanket using a join as you go method. So I followed her tutorial and it turned out great. I am not a blanket maker per se, but I do love making smaller blanket projects. For instance, a doll blanket like this, or even loveys, baby loveys that are small little blankets with little amigurumi heads and arms. And then I also made a play blanket where it looks like a hooded lion blanket where kids can wear it and pretend to be a lion. I thought that was a super fun project to work on. But I love working on smaller blanket projects that kids can use, and it's much quicker, and I can learn how to do different stitches. The lion blanket is actually the project where I first learned how to do the corner to corner stitch, and it was so fun. It was fun learning the increases and then the decreases. So blankets for me is a learning process because I get to learn all these different stitches, different ways on how to join things. If it's a granny square, I can make them different sizes. It's just super fun. And sometimes it can be mindless stitching, which is always a good thing. And sometimes we need a break. So yeah, these are gonna be doll blankets, but so this is inspiring me to want to make more doll accessories. I have an IKEA doll bed that needs new bedding. Like I want to make a mattress and a blanket and some pillows and stuff. And so yeah, this is inspiring me to want to revamp the IKEA doll bed and make some new things for it. So I look forward to making more doll accessories. My next toy is a unicorn, and here it is, super cute. Now I don't know how to pronounce the designer's name, so I will have everything linked down below in the description box. But I chose this not only because the sample photos had a bunch of like mishmash colors. I thought even though if they were mishmash, they kind of went well together, so I thought it would be a good stash busting project because it wasn't a combination of colors that I would normally pick and put together. So, but when they put it into these unicorns, I thought that was brilliant. So I thought I'd give it a try. And I purposely chose this pattern so that I could use my scrap yarns that I'm trying to get rid of. I did find an error, a slight error in round 5 of the horn. Do the pattern repeat only twice. And then a tip when incorporating the horn, just to let you know, it is crocheted in, but it's crocheted in 2 separate rows. So just use the photos as a guide. So if you check out this pattern, take a look at the photos of all the different variations of unicorns that they have. They have some really gnarly looking color combos. So I think, but it works. They look great to me. So I think this is a great pattern to just play with all of the scrap color, wonky colors that you might have. Just put them together. They look great on a unicorn apparently. Thank you so much for watching this far, but now I have a little treat for you. For the first time on this channel, I will be introducing 3 special ladies who are in our fiber community. And this is usually what we call like the community spotlight. And I'm gonna start with the first one. And the first one is Sheila. And if you see me looking on the side here, it's because I have my tablet and I'm gonna be reading off of some of our emails and messages so I can share them with you. Back in episode 25, I shared with you my crochet confetti friendly unicorn doll, which is right up here. So here she is, and I shared her with you. And shortly after I posted the video on YouTube, Sheila reached out to me and she let me know that she herself was working on a crochet confetti friendly pattern. And if you are familiar with crochet confetti, her friendly doll patterns, this is part of her friendly doll collection. And she has maybe like a handful of them. I think they are the most complex patterns in her whole entire shop or collection, if you will. And I put them in quotes because Sheila made a really good point in that crochet confetti's patterns, and including these friendly doll patterns, aren't necessarily complex. She called them repetitive, and that is so true. Because when I think about it, like in my video I mentioned, oh, I took like 2 whole weeks to finish this pattern. And it took forever, which is true. But when I think about it, it's not like the stitches are complex or the construction is anything unique or hard. It really is a matter of repetition. You're doing things over and over again. Like the hair, for instance. You're just, because they're so long and there's so many of them, you're working on the hair strands for a long period of time. And same thing with these ruffles. There's nothing really complex about them. Once you figure out the stitch repetition, it's just, you're doing it over and over again. And you know, as crocheters, you already know ruffles take a long time. So when I say complex, it's just really time consuming. And that's such a great point, Sheila. Thank you so much for pointing that out to me. And also what I loved about Sheila's messages was that she has such a great attitude about her. I mentioned that I took 2 weeks, and for me, 2 weeks is like forever. And that's with dedicated crocheting time. Like that's pretty much what I do all day, every day. Aside from the day-to-day tasks that, you know, a stay-at-home mom has to do. I said, I gotta ask, was it worth it? Because it's such a time-consuming project. And her response was, she was actually pretty easy. Much is easy, just repetitive, which I don't mind. And I love that attitude. It may be time-consuming and it may be a lot of repetition, but that's the joy in making these things, isn't it? It's the journey, it's the process of making this. That's the fun part. So thank you so much, Sheila, for sharing your project with me and the rest of our community, and your photos. They're just exquisite, and your doll came out so amazing. Thank you so much. You're very talented, my friend. So the next person I'd like to share with you is Medjine. And I can't recall which video she contacted me afterwards, but she mentioned that she had finally made her first amigurumi doll. And I'm so excited because I find that there are a lot of amigurumists out there who love making animals. And that's exactly how I started off first. I made animals, I love them. I love the idea of animals wearing clothes and and accessories and everything. It's just the cutest thing. And dolls were not my thing. I mean, I would see them and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's cute. But it wasn't like a big deal. The animals were, that's where my heart was at. And I think that's where majority of the amigurumists are out there today. And so when I hear a message from one of you, my community members, saying that you made your first amigurumi doll, it makes my heart sing, because it's like, whether you like it or not, whether you like making amigurumi dolls or not, it brings joy to my heart knowing that at least you gave it a try. So you'll know whether you like it or not. For me, it didn't stick right away. It took me, you know, a few dolls before I got addicted to them, because sometimes I often hear so many comments about I don't like making dolls, or I tried making the dolls but it's just not my thing. And that's okay, you know, like I said, like amigurumi dolls are not for everybody, and that's fine. But even if you just give it a try, that's a great thing. I would love for every amigurumist to at least give an amigurumi doll a try. I would love to spread the joy and just the love for amigurumi dolls in general. I feel lonely out here. Like, there's not too many people who make amigurumi dolls. I get excited whenever I hear, oh, somebody made an amigurumi doll. Regine, you made my day. She did such a great job. Like, I love that Mijin not only took a pattern, but she modified it and she improvised and she just went with the flow and she finished the project. I mean, she had quite a few bumps and lumps in the road. let me share with you some of her comments. So she says, amigurumi is challenging for me since I don't like the single crochet stitch and the counting drives me crazy. Crocheting arms and legs are especially difficult even with a stitch marker. I did this doll wig cap like 5 times since it kept turning into a cone. This is my first doll, but before her I made a coffee cup from a Llama Mama tutorial, a sea turtle, and shark for a customer. She has an Etsy shop, which I will link down below in case you want to check out. But most of my makes are not there or were gifts that I don't want to make again. I think we all understand that. There are some projects that we make once and it's like, oh, never again, right? So she says she started with a mini doll pattern from Hobbii. Then she decided to make the body longer. Hairstyle is from the My Pretty Brown Doll book by Yolanda. The dress is Mijin's own design. She made the doll to participate in a flower cal by Judy Creation on YouTube, and the flower of the month at the time was marigold. She had lots of trouble with the eyelashes and losing and adding stitches in arms and legs. She has some amigurumi experience under her belt, and she attempted the amigurumi doll, and despite her challenges that she's listed, she did an awesome job. I mean, she persevered, she pushed through, and she made it her own, and I just love it. And I hope that Mijin's story will help to motivate others who might be intimidated by the idea of starting or even attempting an amigurumi doll, because even though if it's your first or you consider yourself a beginner amigurumist, look at what you can make. I mean, her doll turned out beautiful. And I know that there are some of you who are ever so critical of, I think we all are as makers. We can be very overcritical of our makes. But I think the one thing that we need to remember as makers is that the people that we give our works of art to don't really have that same criticism when they receive our gifts. I mean, you can see their eyes light up with delight and joy. Even though we may know what mistakes are in there, they don't know. They have no clue. They haven't touched yarn. They don't know what crochet is, or even that there's a difference between knit and crochet. They're all the same to them. They just know that it's a toy and it's handmade by you, somebody special, and they're just delighted. I mean, it's a happy soul. And I think that's what we need to remember as makers, that despite whatever criticisms we might have of our handmade things, people really do genuinely enjoy when we gift it to somebody, and they don't see the same mistakes that we do. So thank you so much, Mijin, for sharing your beautiful doll with us, and I hope that you give another amigurumi doll pattern a try someday soon. Okay, and then last but not least, I would like to share with you a very special community member. I think most, if not all, amigurumi podcasters out there know who she is, and I'm speaking of Chantel. You may know her just by in the comments. She's always commenting on our videos. She's like every podcaster's #1 fan, I think, out there. And she's like our little cheerleader in the background, always sharing like her patterns, and not her patterns per se, but patterns that she might come across that she might think that we might like. She's always sharing information, telling us about videos and things that she might think we're interested in. She's so active in the fiber community that she's just a rock star. In, I believe, my last podcast video, maybe 2 podcast videos ago, I had shared that I made some felties, basically little toys made out of felt, and I was super proud of them. And then she shared with me that there was a YouTuber back in the day, back in old school YouTube days. I used to watch YouTube back in the day, and I'm not sure if you did as well, but apparently Chantel and I were on the tube back in the day, probably in the origin days together. Because she was sharing with me a YouTuber, and she says that there's this young girl that makes felties. Let me try and share with you what she says. I was thinking about those felt plushies I made so long ago, and I was wondering if I could find the young girl and her tutorials, and I found them. She shared some links, and then she says, keep in mind that those videos and those felt plushies were made 10, 12, 13 years ago. So much had changed on YouTube since. So many more tutorials, so many differences in styles of the projects, and that's so true because you can see how amigurumi has changed over time, right? And also the improvements in the video and the video quality. So she was a young girl at the time. I think, if I recall, she might have been maybe like 12 or 13 at the time when she was posting these videos, and she'd kick out tutorials on her own. Young kid kicking out YouTube tutorials, and she was very, very popular at the time. And then she says, we're not talking about millions of views, something like that. Like today's YouTubers, they got millions of views. Back in the day, she was very popular, probably in like the thousands or tens of thousands of views. But yeah, that was pretty popular back in the day. But she was very good, and I loved watching her videos. So when I looked at her links down below in her email, as soon as I saw the name, I was so excited. I was like, I know her! It was like the Elf movie. Santa, I know him! It was like, I know her! It was like a celebrity moment. I think I was fangirling. I was like, Tammy Hallam, I know her! I clicked on the video and I watched it, and it was like a time warp. It just brought me back to that time period. Miko was about 3 or 4 years old. She was the cutest little thing. At the time, she was into Vanellope von Schweetz from Wreck-It Ralph, and she emulated her. I mean, her whole mannerisms and everything, it was just sass, like Vanellope. And she was into miniatures. And so I followed Tammy Hallam's tutorials, and I thought, I'm gonna make her some felties. And look at what I found! Chantel, I found a Ziploc bag full of the felties that I made from her tutorials. These are the things that I made from Tammy Hallam's tutorials. So I made a little boba. And if you don't know, Miko and I are big boba fans. So we love our boba. We're also Asian, we love sushi, right? And look, it pops out. So cute. So these were like, I think these were one of my first felties that I made. Like Tammy Hallam's tutorials were my first felties that I've ever made. Lightly filled. I didn't know to stuff felties. There's a little bread with sesame seeds on it. I don't know how long that took, but that looks like it took me quite a bit. And then some peas in the pod. I think one of them's got dead eyes. And they do come out. Some, I think she called them chips. She might be from the UK or something, but here in America we call them French fries, but she called them chips. And they're little chippies or French fries, and they come out so super cute. I was so proud of these when I made them. I had a hamburger, or cheeseburger I should say, because there's a little slice of cheese. And this, I decided to keep them all together, so I think I sewed all the layers together as one piece because I didn't want Miko to lose anything. So I had my hamburger and fries, and then of course you gotta have some condiments. And then another sushi. But yeah, I was so delighted when I got Chantel's email message and the links, and it was a lovely time reminiscing, because these are happy moments in my maker's life. I mean, these may have been one of my first felties, but I'm super proud of what I accomplished. I mean, I was delighted back then, and I'm still delighted even today. What, she's 15 now, for like 10 years ago. These were made more than 10 years ago, and I'm still delighted. So it's great to keep some of your handmade projects all these years. Thank you so much, Chantel, for sharing all of your discoveries and just for keeping in touch and showing your love and your support. You are awesome. You are a rock star, and we appreciate you here at the Stitchity Doodle Studio. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this video, and I'm hoping to put out more videos to keep you updated with all of my makes. Outside these doors is a whole countertop full of bodies that I need to share with you. So I hope you'll stick around, keep an eye out for those videos, and I'll see you soon, hopefully. Thanks for watching. Bye.